Hey guys, welcome to the Breakthrough, our 5 to Thrive video. This week we are hosting Jenny Reverts, my mom, and she is going to be explaining overall just the body, soul, and spirit. I'm going to be asking her some questions, but mainly I'm going to just let her take the wheel and just let her just speak truth into your guys' lives.
Well, yeah, what Mackenzie's talking about is very, very real in our family, was very real in our family, and continues to be so. And it really all started because of it making an impact in my life and in my family when I was young. And just walking through my parents' divorce and my mom seeking counseling. She found an incredible ministry in Denver that taught her these truths. That at that time was Grace Fellowship International. They are now Exchange Life Ministries. But my desire was to become a Christian counselor, especially for kids. But when my mom learned these new truths, which aren't new at all, they're so incredibly biblical, but very well hidden, it seems like, for all kinds of reasons. She told me that if I was going to do any of that or be in ministry, she really encouraged me to learn this and how it was going to change my life. I was only 19. And so I went through this conference, and I'm sitting in a room full of lots older people. I was the only one there that was my age. But with what I was going through and the struggle with my parents' separation and things in my own life, I was blown away by the truth that I was hearing, how it was going to impact my Christian life forever. And it did. And I could not ever let it go. Couldn't stop thinking about it after it was over. I knew that I wanted to learn more. Not that my life became easy after that. Matter of fact, there were a lot of things that made it harder in my life. But through that whole situation and knowing this truth is what um, really set me free. But I had to go through brokenness. And I know Mackenzie has talked about that. And so a big part of understanding these truths is understanding what is brokenness and what is not broken at the same time. So the main thing that hit me as I was learning about what we are sharing, what Mackenzie is sharing with you, is something that Mackenzie calls the body, soul, and spirit. And understanding how we are created is essential. It's the platform really on the foundation on how to look at the struggles that we might be facing, why things don't seem to be working quite right, where the lies and the hardships of that comes out of. So I am going to show you a slide.
So while you're doing that, while you're pulling that up, do you feel like what you're about to teach very much covers we have a lot of women that struggle with depression and anxiety and a lot of behavior, what we see as behavior problems. Do you feel like what you're about to share is going to be able to address those?
Yes.
Okay.
And here's why. Because there's an explanation that may be a spiritual explanation that we never see. And a lot of times when we're dealing with depression or anxiety and things like that, the world wants to tell us whether we need to take medications, which sometimes that is very true. And I'm not ever saying that that's not the case. But when we understand that it is a spiritual issue, that the world's view of how to fix things certainly leaves out the spiritual side of things. And if we understand how we are created, we can also see where the attack is coming from. It's like laying out the map and being able to say, this is where the attack is. And now I can identify it, I can see it, and I know how to pray about it. And I also know what maybe begin to recognize what God is going to do in my life through it.
Awesome.
So this picture that you have on the screen is what we call the biblical picture of man. And if you look at those three verses, God's perfect design, and you read 1 Thessalonians 5:23 and Hebrews 4:12 and Genesis 2:7, you're going to see that spirit, soul, and body are mentioned. Now, when you think about this spirit, soul, and body, you almost have to think of them as compartments, and each compartment does something different. And so that's going to be really important to understand, that when God created us with these three parts, he had specific things that he wanted to see happen in and through each of these compartments. So when we think about being a spirit and a soul and a body, the spirit, we have these arrows that we have in here as well, but the spirit is our connection with God. And I'll go into that more on the next slide. Our soul is very much where our personality is. And of course, our body, one thing that we've always said with our youth kids or our kids growing up is it's your earth suit. God perfectly created the earth or the body to function perfectly on the earth and nowhere else. But what most people don't understand is that we think that we are more of a body, or what our body is capable of doing, or that my body identifies me, or we might think that my soul, my personality identifies me because it seems to be that's what I do or how I act. And so we get a lot of identity from the soul and the body, and we don't even know what to do with the spirit. But truly, if you read those verses, especially I love when you get into Genesis 2:7, even, and how God created us. It's a powerful verse that although these words aren't necessarily used, you can certainly hear them in the verse. And then for the other verses do talk about them specifically. But if we think that man is essentially a spirit who has a soul and lives in a body, then we can see that we are 3D. But how many times do we treat ourselves or other people as just a 2D, just 2D, like I'm just a soul and a body? And for sometimes we feel like I'm just a body. That's no one cares about my personality. Nobody cares about me, and they just see me as a body. So when we think about that, um, how does God create us? Why did he create us with this perfect design to have all three parts? And that's what I'm going to show you next.
All right, you guys, I will be honest with you. When we were doing this whole interview and this whole breakdown, I thought we were going to get this done in like, I don't know, 20 minutes max. And when I finally got everything ready to be edited and realized it was going to be over an hour, we decided to really truly break this down. So I just want to explain. We're going to do this in compartments and we're going to do this in sections. So the first section that you have seen is just a simple breakdown of body, soul, and spirit. Now, I do want to explain that body and soul and spirit is going to explain further why we struggle with depression, why we struggle with anxiety, why we struggle with fear, beliefs, and lies, and really truly what happened to really create junk in our life, right? And even truly even showing why we run our life, have our own resources, why we always do the things that we don't want to ever do, why our life is falling apart, or why there are Christians that we don't truly believe act like Christians, right? So these are all things that we're going to be covering even further. And so kind of the schedule that we'll do this in is, so it's technically Wednesday when this is airing. And what this will do is on Wednesday, when this airs, Thursday, I will do an audio of breaking down this previous message. And then the next week, I will do the same thing. So I'll air another portion of it. And then that following Thursday, I'll break it down as well. That way, it's just not taking up a whole hour of your time. And you aren't overwhelmed or like bombarded with too much information at one point. So I fully want you to just dive in as we continue through this series and really just break things down. But I'm so thankful that my mom was able to hop on today or tonight and that we were just able to have a conversation. And I know that this is just the tip, the very, very, very tip of the iceberg. And you are about to get even further a tip of the iceberg. But thank you so much for tapping in. And I truly believe that understanding body, soul, and spirit, understanding that we have three compartments, is going to really blow your mind of how God has designed us. So I will see you guys tomorrow, and I hope you have a great night or a great day. It's technically, you guys, I'm filming this on Tuesday night, so my time is a little rocky, but I hope you have a great Wednesday, and I can't wait to talk to you Thursday.